The shrill sound of the phone sliced through the silence, pulling her from the haze of half-sleep. It was 2 a.m. The kind of hour when everything feels off. When nothing is quite real. When you're lost between dreams and reality. A quick glance at the phone's display confirmed her suspicion. It was Alex. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't heard from him in years, not since the fallout. Not since the betrayal that shattered everything. Their friendship had been everything, unbreakable. But then Jake had stepped into their lives, and Alex had changed. No warning, no explanation. Just distance. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, and let out a shaky breath before answering. Hello? There was a pause, and then the sound of ragged breathing on the other end of the line. Avery, Alex said, his voice tight, almost frantic. You need to listen to me. It's urgent. Avery's heart pounded in her chest, her mind racing to process the situation. Alex, what is it? What's going on? She tried to clear the sleep from her voice, but the tension in his tone made it impossible to stay calm. It's about Jake, Alex said, his words coming in quick, uneven bursts. What you found out about him? The betrayal? That was just the tip of the iceberg. Avery froze, her mind reeling. What? What do you mean, just the tip of the iceberg? Alex's voice dropped to a whisper, as though he was afraid someone might overhear. He's hiding something, Avery. Something darker than you can imagine. And you need to find out what it is before it's too late. The words hit her like a physical blow. Betrayal had already nearly destroyed her. What could possibly be worse than what she already knew? Her thoughts felt scrambled, unable to process what Alex was saying. She had never heard him sound this desperate, this panicked. It was as though he was begging her to understand, to believe him. Alex, I don't understand. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice shaky. What's he hiding? There was a long silence, and Avery could hear Alex breathing heavily on the other side of the line. It was as if he was debating whether or not to continue. Finally, he spoke again, but this time, his voice sounded different. Darker. I don't know all the details yet, but it's bad. Really bad. And you're going to be in danger if you don't find out what it is. Her heart hammered in her chest. Danger? What kind of danger, Alex? I don't have much time, Alex said quickly, his voice growing even more frantic. You have to figure out what he's hiding. It's more than just a betrayal, Avery. He paused, as though considering how much to say. It's worse than anything you can imagine. He's involved in something illegal, something dangerous. And you, Avery, you're part of it now too. You're already in too deep. Avery's blood ran cold. What was he talking about? Her mind refused to grasp the full weight of his words. She had spent the last few months trying to move on from the devastation Jake had caused. Trying to heal after the lies, the broken promises, the hidden truths. But now, Alex was telling her that the worst was yet to come. Her chest tightened with a cold, suffocating fear. She tried to push the panic down, tried to force herself to think clearly. But all she could do was replay his words over and over in her head. You have to act fast, Alex continued, his voice trembling. Jake's been hiding something for a long time. I don't know what, but it's bad. And now that you know, you're a target too. No, Avery whispered, shaking her head even though she knew he couldn't see her. This doesn't make sense. Jake. He wouldn't do anything like that. He's just, she trailed off, her voice faltering as the realization hit her. Jake had always been the person she thought she could trust. The one who would never betray her. But then she had found the hidden messages. The strange conversations. The lies that no longer made sense. And the betrayal, the one that had shattered her world, had led her to one conclusion: Jake had been hiding something, but she never imagined it could be something this dark. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a door creaking open in the distance. Her eyes snapped toward the hallway. She couldn't see anyone, but the hair on the back of her neck stood on end. The hairs of caution raised as the air in her apartment seemed to thicken. "Alex," she whispered, her voice suddenly small, as if the phone call itself had turned the world around her into something unfamiliar. "What do you mean, I'm in danger? What's happening?" Another silence stretched between them, longer this time, before Alex's voice returned. It was low, almost defeated. "I don't have much time," he repeated. "But I'll tell you this. Whatever you think you know about Jake, whatever you think is the truth, it's not. There's more. And it's coming for you. Just be careful, Avery. Don't trust anyone." Before she could respond, the line went dead. Avery stared at the phone in her hand, the cold dread creeping up her spine. She had never heard Alex like this. Never heard him sound so broken. And yet, there was something in his words, something that felt real, too real to ignore. She didn't know what to believe, but one thing was clear: she had to find Jake. She had to find the truth. She swung her legs off the bed, the cold wooden floor sending a chill through her feet. The apartment felt different now, darker somehow, as if the very walls were closing in around her. She looked around, half expecting to see someone in the shadows, waiting to spring a trap. Nothing. She stood up, taking a slow, deliberate breath. She had no choice. She couldn't let this go. She had to know what was really happening. The betrayal had already been too much to swallow, but this? This was beyond anything she had ever imagined. She grabbed her jacket from the back of the chair and quickly pulled it on. The night was thick with fog, and she could barely see anything beyond her small apartment's windows. But there was something inside her, something gnawing at her gut, telling her that the answers she was seeking were not just somewhere out there. They were much closer. They were inside her life. Inside Jake's world. And she had been too blind to see it. She turned toward the door, a sudden determination hardening inside her chest. If Jake was hiding something, she would find out what it was. And if Alex was right, if danger was really closing in, she was going to need to be ready. Her mind raced as she opened the door. The unknown was waiting for her, lurking in the shadows. And no matter how much she wanted to avoid it, she couldn't escape it now. The cold night air hit Avery's face like a slap as she stepped out of her apartment. She pulled her jacket tighter around her body, shivering not from the chill, but from the overwhelming feeling that something was wrong, terribly wrong. She couldn't shake the nagging thought that she had just unlocked a door to a world she didn't understand, a world where trust and betrayal meant something far darker than she'd ever imagined. The streets were empty, the city that never slept now eerily still, as if the entire world was holding its breath. The only sounds that accompanied her were the echo of her footsteps against the concrete and the distant hum of streetlights. Her mind raced. She couldn't believe what Alex had said about Jake. It didn't make sense. Jake, the man she had once loved with every part of her being, couldn't be the person Alex was painting him to be. Could he? Her heart still ached at the thought of their time together, the late-night talks, the whispered promises. But Alex's warning hung over her like a storm cloud, making her question everything she thought she knew. She couldn't ignore the urgency in Alex's voice. He had told her to find Jake. To confront him. But where would she even start? The man who had once been her whole world had become a stranger in the span of a few short months. And now, after the betrayal, she had no idea where to even begin looking for him. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, interrupting her thoughts. She pulled it out, her heart leaping into her throat as she saw the name on the screen, Jake. She stared at the screen for a long moment, her fingers hovering over the call button. Part of her wanted to hang up. Part of her wanted to ignore him completely. After all, how could she trust him now, after everything that had happened? But the other part of her, the part that still loved him, even through the lies, knew she had to answer. With a deep breath, she pressed the green button. "Hello?" Her voice was shaky, uncertain. She didn't know what to expect, but she wasn't prepared for what came next. "I need to see you," Jake's voice came through the phone, strained, as if he was struggling to speak. "Right now." Avery's heart pounded in her chest. She had so many questions, so much anger, but she held her tongue. The sense of urgency in Jake's voice was palpable, and something about it made her stomach twist. "Why? What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why do you need to see me, Jake? After everything?" A long pause filled the air before Jake spoke again. "I can't explain everything over the phone. It's not safe. But if you care about me at all, you'll come." She gritted her teeth, the ache in her chest growing deeper. "You don't get to ask for that. Not after everything you've done. You lied to me. You kept things from me. You—" "I know," he cut her off, his voice breaking. "And I'm sorry, Avery. But this is bigger than us. It's bigger than anything I ever imagined. Please, just, trust me. Come. I'll explain everything when you get here." His words hung in the air like a dark promise, one that sent chills down her spine. The Jake she knew, the man who had loved her, who had held her through the storms, was gone. In his place was a man who seemed broken, desperate, and more dangerous than ever. But something in his voice, something in the way he pleaded with her, made her pause. She didn't know why, but she couldn't help herself. The curiosity, the need to understand, was too strong. "Where are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll send you the address. Just come. Please." The line went dead before she could respond. Avery stood there for a moment, the phone still pressed to her ear. She wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, to tell him to leave her alone. But her feet were already moving, and before she knew it, she was walking towards the nearest subway station. The underground station was nearly empty at this hour. The dim lights flickered overhead as Avery stood at the platform, waiting for the train. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, doubts, and fears. She was terrified. Terrified of what Jake might say, terrified of what she might find. But she couldn't stop herself. Something inside her urged her forward. Maybe it was her heart, still stubbornly clinging to hope, or maybe it was the mystery that had started to unravel around her. She needed answers. The train arrived with a screeching halt, and Avery stepped inside. The train car was nearly empty, save for a few late-night commuters, their faces tired and worn from long days. Avery found an empty seat by the window and sat down, her fingers nervously tapping on the edge of her phone. The address Jake had sent her wasn't far. Just a few stops, then she would be at the location. But she still had no idea what she was walking into. As the train rumbled forward, Avery's thoughts kept circling back to the same question: what was Jake hiding? Alex had mentioned something illegal, something dangerous. But what did that even mean? The man she had known was nothing like that. Or was he? Could she have been so blind all this time? Her stomach churned with anxiety. Every stop the train made seemed to pull her further away from the life she had once known. When the train finally screeched to a halt, Avery stood up, her legs unsteady as she walked toward the door. The station was quiet, almost too quiet, as she stepped onto the platform. The air was thick, heavy with tension. She looked around but saw no sign of Jake. The address he had sent her led to an old, abandoned building, a place she had never seen before. She hesitated for a moment, her heart racing in her chest. But then she took a deep breath and walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. The building was dark, its windows boarded up, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. The air smelled stale, like dust and mildew. She could feel the weight of the silence pressing down on her as she approached the front door, which stood slightly ajar. With a deep breath, she pushed it open and stepped inside. The first thing she noticed was the smell, the heavy scent of decay, of something old and forgotten. The hallway stretched before her, dimly lit by a flickering bulb. She could barely make out the shape of a staircase leading upward. "Jake?" she called out, her voice trembling. No response. Her pulse quickened as she moved further into the building, the eerie silence wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Each step felt like it took her further into the unknown, further into a danger she wasn't prepared for. At the top of the stairs, a door stood slightly open. She pushed it gently, her heart pounding in her chest. The room beyond was sparse, just a few pieces of old furniture, a dusty couch in the corner, and a small lamp flickering dimly in the corner. Jake was sitting on the couch, his face pale and drawn, his eyes hollow, as if he hadn't slept in days. Avery froze in the doorway, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't the man she remembered. This wasn't the Jake she had known. "You came," he whispered, his voice raw. "I'm sorry. I didn't know who else to turn to." Avery took a step forward, her voice tight with emotion. "Jake. What is this? What's going on?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked down at his hands, as if gathering the strength to speak. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he began to explain. The room felt cold. The air was heavy with an uncomfortable silence, the kind that gnaws at you when you know something is terribly wrong but can't quite figure out what. Avery stood at the threshold of the room, the dim light from the flickering lamp casting long shadows on the walls. Jake was sitting on the couch, his posture hunched, as if the weight of the world had fallen upon him. His eyes, once filled with warmth and love, were now empty, dark, hollow, and filled with an unspoken pain. Avery felt a chill that wasn't just from the draft in the old building. The man before her wasn't the man she had once known, the man she had trusted with her heart. This was someone different, someone who had been hiding a life she couldn't even begin to comprehend. "Jake," Avery whispered, her voice barely a breath. "What is going on? Why are you doing this? Why bring me here?" Jake looked up at her, his eyes tired and clouded with guilt. He didn't say anything for a long moment, and Avery could feel the tension building in the room, thick and suffocating. It felt like the walls themselves were pressing in, as if the very space they occupied was a trap. "Avery," he said at last, his voice rough and raw, "I never wanted this for you. I never wanted to pull you into this mess. But you're already in it. Whether you want to be or not." Avery's heart pounded in her chest. "In what mess, Jake? You need to explain everything to me. I've been left in the dark long enough. And don't give me that cryptic crap. I deserve the truth." Jake exhaled sharply, a low, bitter laugh escaping his lips. "I should have told you a long time ago, Avery. I should have trusted you with this. But I was too afraid of what it might do to us. I thought I could keep you safe. But now," he looked away, shaking his head as if trying to make sense of it all. Avery stepped closer, her hands shaking, her voice firm. "Jake, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. But I can't help you if you don't trust me. Please, just tell me what this is all about." He stared at her for a moment, and Avery could see the internal battle waging in his eyes. Finally, he spoke, his words coming out in a rush. "You're right. You deserve to know. But you have to understand, this isn't just about us. It's bigger than you or me. And it's dangerous. I got involved with the wrong people, Avery. People who make deals that aren't exactly legal. I never wanted it to go this far. It started small. Just small favors. But then, he swallowed hard. But then it escalated. Avery felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean, escalated? Jake stood up suddenly, pacing back and forth across the room, his hands running through his disheveled hair. At first, it was just things I could brush off, small jobs, errands, moving things from one place to another. But then they started asking for more. And I didn't know how to get out. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could protect you. But I was wrong. Avery's heart raced as she tried to piece together what he was saying. Who are these people, Jake? What do they want from you? What have you gotten yourself into? He stopped pacing, his face pale, his voice barely above a whisper. They're not just criminals, Avery. They're part of something bigger. A network, a syndicate. I don't even know who's at the top, but they've got their hands in everything. Drugs, money laundering, even arms dealing. And they don't care who gets hurt along the way. They'll do whatever it takes to protect their interests. Avery felt her breath catch in her throat. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This wasn't the Jake she had known. This wasn't the man who had once kissed her under the stars, who had promised to protect her no matter what. So what are you involved in? Avery asked, her voice trembling. What exactly are you doing for them? Jake looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. I've been transporting goods for them. Weapons, money, documents. Anything they need to move from one place to another. I thought it was harmless at first. But then they started asking for more, for bigger jobs. And when I tried to back out, well, let's just say they made sure I couldn't leave. Avery could feel the floor shifting beneath her feet. She had been in love with Jake, had trusted him completely. And now, the man she had loved was tangled up in a web of crime and corruption, unable to escape. But it didn't make sense. Jake wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a bad person. Why didn't you tell me, Jake? She asked, her voice breaking. Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me what was going on? Jake's face twisted in pain. I didn't want to drag you into it. I thought I could protect you, keep you safe. I didn't want you to be a part of this world. But then I realized that I was already dragging you into it. You're in danger now, Avery. They've seen you. They know who you are. Avery shook her head, her mind reeling. What are you talking about? Who knows me? Who's going to hurt me? Jake's expression hardened. It's not just about you anymore. They know everything. They know we were together. They know I've been talking to you. And they don't like loose ends. They'll do anything to protect their operation. And you're a threat to that. Avery's heart pounded in her chest. Jake, what do you mean? What are they going to do to me? He grabbed her by the shoulders, his grip firm but not harsh. I don't know, but you're not safe here. You need to leave. You need to disappear, Avery. I don't know if I can protect you anymore. You need to get out of the city. Go to a place where they won't find you. The longer you stay, the more danger you'll be in. Avery pulled away from him, her mind spinning. You're telling me to run? To leave everything behind and just disappear? No, Jake. I'm not going anywhere until I know what's going on. I can't just leave. Jake stepped back, his face clouded with frustration. Avery, you don't understand. If you stay here, they'll find you. They'll hurt you, and I won't be able to stop them. You have to go. Please. She shook her head again, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm not running, Jake. Not without answers. Not without knowing what you've gotten yourself into. A long silence fell between them, thick with the weight of their emotions. Jake opened his mouth as though to speak but then stopped. He seemed lost for words, as if he were trying to find a way to explain everything and still keep her safe. But the truth was, Avery could see it in his eyes. There was no way to keep her safe. Not from what was coming. "I never wanted this for you," Jake said quietly. "But the longer you stay here, the more danger you're in. You're tangled in this now, Avery. There's no going back. You have to trust me. Leave." Avery's mind screamed at her to run, to heed his warning, to escape this mess before it swallowed her whole. But her heart, the one that had once trusted Jake with everything, refused to listen. She needed to understand. She needed to know how deep the rabbit hole went. "I'm not leaving," she said firmly, her voice resolute. "If I leave now, it's like admitting that you're right, that I can't handle this. I won't do that. I'm staying here. With you. And I'm going to figure this out." Jake's face contorted with pain, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes, relief. "I don't know if you should be doing this, Avery. But if you're staying, you need to understand one thing." Avery leaned forward, her heart racing. "What?" He took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. "This is only the beginning. And there's no way out. Not for you. Not for me." Avery's heart pounded in her chest as she stood in the dimly lit room, her mind spinning with everything Jake had just confessed. The weight of his words felt heavier with each passing second, pressing down on her like an iron vice. But there was something else in her eyes now, something that wasn't fear or confusion, but determination. She couldn't walk away. Not now. Not after everything she had learned. Jake had asked her to leave. He had begged her to escape. But she couldn't. No matter how dangerous the situation seemed, no matter how tangled the web had become, she couldn't abandon him. She couldn't leave him alone in this, even if she wanted to save herself. "What happens now?" Avery asked, her voice steady, though her heart was racing. Jake rubbed his face in frustration, his eyes filled with pain. Now, we get you out of here. Out of the city. Before they come for you. Avery, you don't understand how dangerous this is." "I don't understand." Avery's voice cracked, her emotions getting the best of her. "Jake, you don't understand. You dragged me into this mess, not the other way around. You kept me in the dark for so long, and now you want me to just leave? You think that's the answer?" He opened his mouth to argue, but Avery cut him off before he could speak. "No," she said, taking a step closer. "You don't get to tell me to run when I don't even know what's going on. All this time, I thought we were just living our lives. I thought I knew you, Jake. But now, everything has changed. You've kept me in the dark, and you expect me to just walk away? No. I want the truth. I deserve it. I deserve to know what you've been involved in and why you're so terrified of these people." Jake looked at her for a long moment, as if weighing his options, as if he were considering whether or not to trust her with more of the truth. His face was pale, his jaw clenched, and for the first time, Avery saw just how terrified he truly was. "They're dangerous, Avery. They've been watching us both. They don't care who they hurt, who they have to destroy to keep their business running. And if you stay, if you get involved any further, you'll become a target, too. I can't let that happen to you. I won't let it." "I'm already involved, Jake," she replied, her voice firm. "You can't erase what's already been done. You can't take it all back. I'm in this now, just like you are. I can't walk away. So, if you want me to stay, then you have to tell me everything. Don't hold back anymore. Don't protect me from the truth. I deserve to know the whole story. All of it." There was a long silence as Jake stared at her, the intensity of her words hanging in the air. Finally, with a deep sigh, he spoke. "I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always involved in all this," he said, his voice hollow. I used to be someone else. Someone you wouldn't recognize. I had a normal life once. A boring life, maybe, but normal. Avery listened closely, her heart beating faster. She could feel that this was the moment where everything was about to change, where the last piece of the puzzle would fall into place. It all started a few years ago, Jake continued. I was struggling to find a job, to keep a roof over my head. I wasn't getting anywhere. The bills were piling up. I didn't know where else to turn. That's when I met them. At first, it seemed harmless. They just asked me to run a few errands, pick up a package, deliver it to someone. Simple things. I thought it was just some small-time stuff, nothing serious. They offered me good money, more than I'd ever seen. So I took the job. I needed it. Avery watched him closely as he spoke, her mind racing. She could feel the tension in the room growing, like a storm that was about to break. But it wasn't just one job, Jake continued, his voice trembling with emotion. It was more. And then more. And each time, the things they asked me to do were worse. It wasn't just deliveries anymore. It was moving money, weapons, all sorts of illegal stuff. And the deeper I got, the more dangerous it became. I knew I should have stopped, I should have walked away, but I didn't. I couldn't. They knew things about me. They had leverage over me. Avery's stomach twisted. What do you mean? What kind of leverage? Jake's eyes flickered with a mix of shame and regret. They knew about my family. My parents. They had someone watching them. I didn't have a choice. If I refused to do their jobs, they'd hurt them. I couldn't let that happen, Avery. I had no choice. And once I was in, there was no way out. They don't let you leave, not once you're in too deep. Avery felt a wave of shock wash over her. So this whole time, you've been doing this because they threatened your family? That's why you kept everything a secret? You were trying to protect them? Jake nodded, his eyes filled with sorrow. Yes. I did whatever they asked, hoping it would end, hoping it would be over. But it never was. And when I met you, I thought I could get out. I thought I could put all of this behind me. But it's never that simple. And now you're caught in the middle of it all. I should have stayed away from you, Avery. I should have kept you out of this. But now it's too late. Avery felt her heart ache for Jake, for the man she had once known, who had been trying so hard to protect those he loved, even if it meant sacrificing himself in the process. But the deeper she delved into his story, the more it became clear, she couldn't just walk away. Not now. Not after everything. So, what's going to happen now? She asked, her voice trembling but resolute. What do we do? Jake stood up, his movements sharp and urgent. We don't have much time. They've been tracking me, Avery. They've been watching every move I've made, and they know I've been talking to you. We need to leave the city, now. Before they get to us. Avery's chest tightened. Where will we go? What happens if we leave? Jake's face darkened. It won't matter where we go. They have eyes everywhere. But we have to try. We can't stay here. Not anymore. You can't stay here, Avery. You're too close to them now. They won't let you go. And if they come for you, I won't be able to protect you. Avery felt the weight of his words pressing down on her. The gravity of the situation was sinking in, but still, the thought of leaving was unbearable. She wanted to run. She wanted to escape, to find safety. But at the same time, she couldn't just abandon Jake. She couldn't leave him to face whatever was coming next alone. I won't leave you, she said quietly, her voice firm. I'm not going anywhere without you. We'll figure this out together. Jake's eyes softened, a flicker of gratitude crossing his face. But there was something else there too, something darker, something he was trying to hide. He didn't want her to be a part of this anymore. He wanted to protect her, to keep her safe, even if it meant pushing her away. But Avery wasn't going anywhere. "We don't have much time," he repeated, his voice urgent. "Pack what you need, and let's go. We have to leave now." Avery stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing as the enormity of the situation hit her. She couldn't back down. Not now. Not when she was this close to uncovering the truth. She couldn't leave without answers. But the danger was real. She could feel it in the air, thick and oppressive. The storm was coming. With a deep breath, she nodded. "Let's go." The night was oppressive, the air thick with the weight of impending disaster. Avery sat in the passenger seat of Jake's car, her knuckles white as she gripped the door handle. Every muscle in her body was tense, her heart beating erratically in her chest. She could feel the weight of their situation pressing down on her, like the entire world was closing in on them. Jake's eyes were fixed on the road ahead, his jaw clenched. His knuckles were tight on the steering wheel, and the way he kept glancing at the rearview mirror told her all she needed to know: they were being followed. "Avery," Jake said in a low, urgent voice, "I need you to stay calm. Don't panic. Whatever happens, stay quiet, and don't make any sudden movements." Avery nodded, though the knot in her stomach was tightening. She wanted to believe that everything was going to be okay, that they could escape, but deep down, she knew the truth. They were being hunted. The car sped down the empty highway, the headlights cutting through the dark night like a blade. The silence between them was unbearable, each passing second stretching out longer than the last. Avery's mind raced with 1,000 questions. How had it come to this? How had their lives gone from ordinary to something out of a nightmare? Jake had warned her, repeatedly, that they were running out of time. The people who had been watching them for months, maybe even longer, were closing in. She had learned more than she ever wanted to know about Jake's past, about the things he'd done in desperation, to protect not just himself but the people he loved. He had promised her he would keep her safe, that they would escape together. But could they? The answer to that question seemed to grow more elusive with each passing mile. The landscape outside the car window blurred into a dark, featureless void, the faint glow of distant lights barely visible on the horizon. Avery's mind kept drifting back to the look in Jake's eyes when he told her they couldn't outrun their past. The fear there was real. The danger was real. They passed through small towns, their lights flickering like dying stars, offering no solace. Every street, every turn, every face that passed by seemed to bring with it the possibility that they weren't alone, that the people Jake had angered were still watching them. "Are we getting close?" Avery asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her breath shaky. Jake glanced at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and guilt. "Not close enough. We have to make it to the safe house. It's the only place we'll be safe for now." "Safe house?" Avery repeated. "What is that, exactly? Who else knows about it?" Jake didn't answer right away. Instead, he kept his eyes on the road, his focus unwavering. "It's a place I've used before," he said finally. "I don't trust anyone, but it's the only option we've got right now. We can't go anywhere else. It's off the grid." Avery swallowed hard. "I'm not leaving you alone in this, Jake. Not for a second. I'm with you, no matter what." "I know," he said softly. "I'm just trying to protect you. I never should have gotten you involved in this." Avery's eyes softened. "It's too late for that. I'm already in this. So we fight together. We run together." A brief flicker of a smile crossed Jake's face, but it was quickly gone, replaced by the deep-set worry that had been in his eyes since the night he first told her the truth. Avery could see the weight of the situation bearing down on him. She could see the guilt and the fear that plagued him. He was trying to protect her, to keep her out of harm's way, but it was clear that even Jake wasn't sure they'd make it out unscathed. The further they drove, the more anxious Avery became. The air in the car was thick, suffocating. Every now and then, Jake's eyes would flick to the rearview mirror again, scanning for any sign of a vehicle that might be tailing them. But Avery didn't need to look over her shoulder to know they weren't alone. The darkness outside was a constant reminder of the danger that pursued them. Suddenly, Jake's grip on the steering wheel tightened. His eyes darted to the side mirror once more. "There's a car behind us," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I think they're getting closer." Avery's heart skipped a beat. She twisted in her seat to glance over her shoulder, but the darkness outside was impenetrable. She couldn't see anything through the tinted windows. But the fear in Jake's voice was enough to confirm it. Whoever was following them wasn't just some random passerby, they were getting closer. "We have to lose them," Jake said. "Hold on." Before Avery could respond, Jake slammed his foot down on the accelerator, and the car surged forward. The engine roared as they sped down the highway, the tires screeching as they took the curve at a speed that made Avery's stomach lurch. The headlights of the pursuing car grew brighter in the rearview mirror, the glow cutting through the night like a predator closing in on its prey. Avery's pulse raced as they weaved in and out of traffic, the car lurching with every sharp turn. She had never felt fear like this before. She had never known what it was like to be hunted. "Jake, what do we do?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. "We keep going," he said, his voice tense but steady. "Just stay with me. I'll lose them." Avery nodded, though doubt crept into her mind. Could he really lose them? The road ahead seemed endless, stretching out into the blackness, but the car behind them was relentless. No matter how fast Jake drove, the other car stayed right on their tail. Avery turned her attention back to the rearview mirror, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. The headlights were so close now, so close she could make out the shape of the vehicle following them. It was black, sleek, almost too sleek, like something that didn't belong on the road. The headlights grew brighter, closer, and Avery's pulse quickened. Whoever they weren't planning on letting them get away. "They're gaining on us," Avery shouted, fear creeping into her voice. "I know," Jake muttered, his face grim. "I'm trying." Suddenly, Jake veered the car off the highway, onto a dirt road that wound through dense trees. The car's tires bounced over the uneven terrain, sending jolts of fear through Avery's body as they sped deeper into the wilderness. The sound of the pursuing car's engine grew louder, signaling that whoever was chasing them wasn't giving up. "Hold on!" Jake shouted, jerking the wheel hard to the left, sending the car into a sharp turn. The road was barely visible now, the headlights of the pursuing car illuminating the trees in jagged streaks of light. Avery could hear the other vehicle behind them, getting closer and closer. They weren't far from the safe house, Jake had said it was nearby, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't going to make it there in time. "We have to lose them," Avery said, her voice a whisper. "We can't outrun them forever." "I know," Jake replied, his eyes wild with desperation. "But we can't stop." Not yet. The darkness around them was complete now, the trees so thick they seemed to swallow up the world. Avery's heart raced as she glanced back at the approaching headlights. Every second that ticked by felt like an eternity, and every inch the car got closer to them felt like a countdown to the inevitable. Then, in an instant, the road ahead was blocked. A massive tree had fallen across the path, completely obstructing their way. Jake cursed, slamming on the brakes. The car skidded to a halt just inches from the trunk of the fallen tree. Avery's breath caught in her throat. The sound of the pursuing car's engine roared just behind them. They were trapped. The car was motionless, caught in the shadow of the enormous tree that had fallen across the road, blocking any hope of escape. Jake's hands trembled as he gripped the steering wheel, his eyes darting between the rearview mirror and the fallen tree in front of them. The sound of the pursuing car grew louder, closer. But there was nowhere left to run. Avery's chest tightened as she stared at the dark figure of the other car creeping up behind them. Her mind raced. What now? How could they possibly survive this? Jake turned to her, his face pale, his expression grim. "Avery," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We don't have much time. When they get here, they'll—" "Don't say it," Avery interrupted, her voice shaking but resolute. "I'm not going to let them take you. We're getting out of this, Jake. Together." Jake's eyes softened for a brief moment before he looked back at the rearview mirror. The headlights were just a few hundred yards away now, their glow bright against the darkening night. The car was almost there. In that moment, Avery realized something. She wasn't afraid of the people chasing them anymore. Fear had been replaced by something else. A deep, burning determination. Jake had been trying to protect her all this time, but now, she needed to protect him. She reached for the door handle and then stopped herself. No, she couldn't just leave him. She was a part of this now. They were in this together, and she was done running. "I don't care what happens," she said, her voice steady. "We fight." Jake's jaw tightened. "Avery." "I'm not going anywhere," she said firmly, cutting him off. "I'm staying with you. If we die tonight, we die together. But I'm not running anymore. We will face them, and we'll figure this out." A long silence stretched between them, the only sound the hum of the engine and the nearing growl of the car behind them. Jake turned to her once more, his eyes filled with a mix of admiration and sorrow. "I should have told you everything from the start," he said, his voice strained. "But I was trying to protect you. I never wanted you to be involved in this mess. But now, it's too late." Avery took a deep breath, her mind made up. "We both have our pasts, Jake. We both have things we wish we could change. But this isn't just your battle anymore. It's ours." Jake nodded slowly, his hands still tight on the wheel. He had already made the decision, but hearing Avery's words gave him the strength he needed to face whatever came next. A loud honk from behind them made Avery jump. The car was nearly there now, so close she could hear the engines roar and feel the vibration through the air. They had no time left. They had to act. Jake quickly reached over and grabbed the gearshift, throwing the car into reverse. The tires screeched as they backed up, narrowly avoiding the fallen tree, but the pursuing car was gaining fast. Avery's heart raced, her breath shallow as the world outside became a blur of movement and noise. Jake threw the car into drive again and slammed the accelerator to the floor. The engine roared as they sped forward, the headlights of the car behind them growing even brighter. The road ahead was a twisting, treacherous mess of dirt and rocks, but Jake's focus was razor-sharp. He had to keep them moving, he had to survive. But the car behind them wasn't backing down. Avery could see the reflection of its headlights in the rearview mirror, closer than ever. Whoever was driving was determined to catch them. "We need to lose them," Jake muttered. Avery's mind raced. She was beginning to panic, but she forced herself to stay calm. The way they were heading, they were just getting closer to more dead ends, more obstacles. And yet, there had to be something they could do. Then it hit her. The cliffs. She didn't know exactly where they were, but she remembered the map Jake had shown her earlier. There was a part of the road ahead that curved toward a cliffside. They could lose them there. "We take the next right," Avery said, her voice sharp. "It'll lead to the cliffs. If we're quick enough, we can use the road to block them." Jake's eyes darted to her. For a moment, she wasn't sure if he heard her, but then his gaze hardened with determination. He didn't have to say anything. He simply nodded and swerved the car right, sending them hurtling toward the narrow, twisting road she had seen on the map. Avery held her breath, gripping the armrest as the car bucked and swerved, the engine roaring like a beast beneath them. They were heading toward a cliffside. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was their only hope. Behind them, the pursuing car followed, relentless. It didn't hesitate, didn't even slow down. Whoever was in that car was determined to make sure they didn't escape. Avery's heart skipped a beat as she looked back to see how close they were. The other car was now so close, the headlights blinding her. "Hold on," Jake muttered, as the road narrowed sharply. Avery's stomach lurched as the car swerved around a corner, barely missing the rocky edge of the cliff. The road dropped steeply beneath them, a vast, dark chasm stretching out on either side. She glanced over at Jake. He was focused, his eyes locked on the road ahead, his grip on the wheel white-knuckled. It was as if the world around them had narrowed down to just this moment, this singular point in time where their survival depended on every decision, every maneuver. They were almost at the cliff. With a wild surge of speed, the car screeched through the curve and straight into the clearing that opened up toward the cliffside. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually make it, might escape. But the pursuing car was still on their tail, and the next few seconds would determine everything. The black car was closing in. With nowhere else to go, Jake yanked the wheel, spinning the car around in a full 180-degree turn, sending them toward the cliff's edge. Avery's breath caught in her throat as they came within inches of the drop. She could hear the other car's tires screeching as it tried to follow them, but it wasn't fast enough. With a final, desperate lurch, Jake slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a stop, mere feet from the cliff's edge. For a few heart-stopping moments, everything was silent. The car behind them had stopped as well, the engine idling as if the driver was calculating their next move. Avery couldn't breathe. It felt like the entire world was holding its breath. Then, from the other car, a figure emerged. It was a man, tall, dark-haired, and dressed in black, his silhouette outlined against the faint light of the headlights. He walked slowly toward them, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. Jake didn't move. He didn't say a word. Neither did Avery. But they both knew that this moment was the point of no return. "Get out of the car," the man called, his voice low but commanding. Jake exhaled slowly, as if preparing himself for what was to come. He glanced at Avery. "No matter what happens, you stay with me. Understood?" Avery nodded, her heart in her throat. But as the man took another step forward, something strange happened. Out of the darkness behind him, two more figures appeared, both dressed in black, both walking toward them with purposeful steps. For a split second, the world seemed to freeze. And then the man spoke again, but this time his voice was different. "Get back in the car. This is over." Jake's brow furrowed. "What do you mean, this is over?" The man smiled grimly. "You're not the target, Jake. We are." Avery's eyes widened as the full weight of the moment hit her. The danger wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was about something much bigger than the both of them. But now it was too late to run. They had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed.